Nobody knows when the world became this way. One day, the contagion suddenly started and humans lost the power to connect with the city. After that, the city expanded on its own and humans were seen as illegal residents and exterminated, and it all happened long before she was born. A group of armored men are rushing forward before the leader tells them to wait and beckons them towards another direction. As they're going, one of the guys tells him that he's too jumpy, to which he orders them to not let their guard down since they might have just been lucky up to this point. They wonder if this is really the right path since it looks a bit different, and if they should go back, but the others start arguing over whether or not they should do that when they've come this far before spotting an exit. As they land down, one of them, Tura, almost slips and falls, but Fusita grabs her in time before they see a builder. The others raise their guns, but Zuru says these guys don't pay attention to humans and leaps onto another platform before hiding from a watchtower. A while later, when they're done, they get ready to return home, with the others ask Zuru how they're supposed to get to the hunting grounds while avoiding the watchtower, so he says they'll take another route since it can't be helped. As they're going back, Ta apologizes to Zuru since this was all for her sister's sake. But he answers that it's not just that, because the village has almost nothing left to eat either, which she thanks him for. Before they arrive at the sludge pipes, they hurriedly rush towards it but realize that it's all dried up before the watchtower suddenly spots them and sends the exterminators, which chops one of the guys' head off. The others hurriedly try to retreat, but the exterminators relentlessly give chase, so Zuru tells them to keep calm and remember the training by luring them in and shooting. Take gets cornered, but Zuru swiftly lures them towards her and keeps running before seeing a man raise his gun and completely incinerate the exterminators. The others quickly reach Zuru and the man, who tells them to take their headgear off because he wants to see their eyes, which she slowly complies to despite the others warning her that they're still in a watchtower's view. The tower doesn't react at all, so the others also take theirs off, after which the man asks if there are any humans here with a net terminal gene. Zuru hesitantly says he saved them, so she'd like to return the favor, but they don't know what he's talking about, so he's about to turn back and leave, but she says the grown-ups might know, but asks what he's before that. He slowly faces them and says he's Kelly, a human. As they're walking, Zuru tells him that their village is inside the perimeter up ahead, so they'll be fine once they get inside because that's the one place the safeguard can't enter, although they don't know why that is the case. As they approach, a bullet suddenly strikes near her feet, and the guards urgently tell her to get away from the man, asking why they're all showing their faces despite being spotted by the watchtower, to which the others say it's because it's okay when they're with him, since Mr. Kelly rescued them and is a human. A guard, Sutezo, asks how that's possible and remarks that there are safeguards that look like humans. Zuru tries to explain what happened with the exterminators, but the guards interrupt her and say that's why they told her it's dangerous for them. But they took the gear and left anyway before Sutezo's pop stops the others and says it's dangerous to stay outside at any rate and tells them to come inside the perimeter, seeing that Kelly isn't a safeguard. As they're walking, he explains that electro-fishers like them are descended from people called planters, who wandered through the city like him and inhabited this place around 300 years ago, so it's rare for them to meet any strangers. They ask if he's met any humans, which he denies, saying he's only found the remains.
No, God!
They arrive and Sutezo announces that the kids are back and have brought a weird man with them before they see Zuru, Ta, and Fusada and question where the others are or if they weren't at least able to bring their gear back, saying they don't have the technology to make that stuff anymore. Zuru says the food was dried up as well, to which they remark that it's enough that 3 of them were able to return alive and they'll starve to death in a month anyway. Seeing Kelly, the people are cautious around him because of never having met a human, but a child innocently approaches him, so he hands him a bar. They'd wonder what it is and look at the sign on it before dropping in the water, which suddenly transforms into a large brick. The others try taking a bit out of it and remark that it's good and must be nutritious before handing it out to everyone. Tay's sister hands the kids a tray as well and tells them to not do something like that again, since all the groups that went before them were almost always killed by safeguards. Pops tells Zuru and Kelly to come to his room when they're done and leaves. He thanks Kelly for giving them food, explaining that they're out of food before Sutezo asks where he got it from. He answers that it was 200 levels below. Pops explains that he's one of the electro-fishers who head out to get sludge, but the areas around here have all dried up, and whenever they have to go somewhere more dangerous, they end up losing even more people. As Ta and Zuru are taking off their gear, they remark that the food's amazing and wonder where he got it from, and if he came all that way from 6,000 levels below alone. Zuru questions why the safeguard exterminates humans, remarking they don't even know anything, while Kelly looks at the people around him as Pop says it'd really help to have someone as skilled as him around, and if he considers staying with them for a while to help them hunt. He answers that he's looking for humans with a net terminal gene, explaining that all humans had it before the contagion. Pop says he's talking of a time when the city belonged to humans. It's said the builders and safeguards followed the humans' orders back then, and is an ancient legend. Zuru asks if that means they could stop the safeguard if they had the net terminal gene thing. He says they could give orders to the builders and make them stop building on their own, along with that, stopping the expansion of the city. Pops agrees that he's actually heard of it, but had forgotten because he'd heard the phrase long ago below the village, a place inside the perimeter that they've always been warned to not go near. Zuru asks if he means the rotting shrine hearing, which Kelly immediately walks out, but Pops tells Sutezo and Zuru to stop him so that he can show the proper way. They cautiously approach it and are met with an illusion of a woman, but Kelly walks right through it and picks up a huge slab of rock to reveal a decaying face which says it'd been waiting for 17,526,000 hours and introduces itself as Sibo, a scientist. She recognizes his gun as a gravitational beam emitter before he asks if there's anyone left with a net terminal gene, which she flatly denies, saying this city would have been made functional years ago if that was the case, but she has got something good, asking him to take her to the automated factory where she can make a synthetic terminal replicating the effects of the net terminal gene, showing him the electrical barrier generator. Kelly agrees to this, and she explains that the factory is about 15 blocks away and can make the portable rations Kelly had, so Pops assembles the electro fissures to help Kelly along the way, and they leave the perimeter. On their way, Sutezo asks if trusting Sibo was really a good idea, so Pops tells them to go back if they have a problem with his decision. Sutezo tells Ta that there wasn't any need for her to come, but she answers that her sister is doing much better thanks to the food Kelly had given them, and she goes wherever Zuru does. As Sibo says, things must be desperate for them if they had to bring children along. Pops answers that there aren't many of them left who can use electro-fish gear before they find themselves in front of a watchtower, but Kelly keeps walking, so they cautiously follow him before arriving at an unknown area where the others stop for food, but Kelly doesn't eat anything. Sibo explains that his metabolism is different from humans, while Zuru keeps thinking about what happened. Pops asks if she's scared, which she agrees to but says she's fine. Sutezo says the air suddenly starts stinking with ions whenever the safeguards appear and asks, which Zuru agrees to, remarking that there was a weird smell before Pops, as that's the kind of thing you have to experience to understand, and tells them to always remember to light a fire and sleep beside it when you're an electro fisher, since they're always on edge. The sight of a fire is soothing, so people watch it to ease themselves. The next morning, while everyone's sleeping, Sibo says she's waited for a long time. No one knows how much time has passed since the city's been like this. One day the contagion just started and humans lost control of everything, after which the city started to randomly expand and the safeguard recognized humans as illegal residents and started exterminating them. Back then, she was the chief scientist of Kaido, a district far away where they'd excavated some information from the remains of the city and managed to use it to preserve human life, but they knew it couldn't last long, so her group of scientists found a way to stimulate the net terminal gene, so her co-workers and her set out in search of another place with a connection port, and that's where they found it. On the way, one of them died, and even the ones that managed to reach the place passed away, so she's sure Kaido's gone as well now. They arrive at the factory and enter inside, as Sibo explains that there are several other factories built here and there, and this is the closest one. She tells Kelly to put him down on a console and starts initiating a process, erecting a large wall that starts pushing out thousands of ration bars, seeing which the guys happily say they won't ever have to worry about starving again. Meanwhile, Sibo tells Kelly that she's having some trouble and tells him to get ready to take the terminal and run. Pops asks if that's the terminal she told them about and if they'll be able to save the city with that, but she doesn't answer, and an army of exterminators start running towards them, so the electro fishers quickly start retreating while Kelly fights them on his own. As the others are running away, Zuru suddenly realizes that Tay isn't with them and goes to get her. Facing the oncoming wave of exterminators, a barrier suddenly forms in front of them as a girl that Zuru recognizes as Sibo walks forward and tells them to get in a car. As she's booting it up, the exterminators keep coming, so Kelly injects himself with something and destroys the entire path with his gun before collapsing. Later, as they're walking back towards the perimeter, Zuru asks Todd if she's fine since an exterminator broke her arm, but she insists that she's alright, and Pops tells the others to bring out the crane so that they can transport the terminal. Sibo walks by, and seeing her, the onlookers remark that she's awfully tall, wondering if she's the woman who looked like the corpse before. She picks up the terminal and sets it down near Kelly's immobile body, assuring them that he's just sleeping, so they carry him inside. As everyone's eating, they happily remark that they can last 4 to 5 months with this and can finally eat till they're full. Pop steps forward and tells them to bring down the lights, calling for a moment of silence for all the men they've lost over the years. Later, as he's sitting down to eat and drink, he says they can properly mourn the ones who sacrificed themselves now because the village has been saved, although it came at a high cost because they lost a lot of electro fishers and gear. A man asks if they can't just live at the automated factory, but Sutezo says they can't do that now since the place is crawling with exterminators, so they just have to see how long this food lasts. Meanwhile, Zuru tells a sleeping Kelly that they were able to save the village and everyone's really happy, questioning if he'll be able to continue his journey if Sibo's experiment is successful, and if he could maybe stay before Sibo wakes him up and says she's going to connect to the synthetic terminal now and would like his help with something, so he walks out with her, leaving Zuru alone. Sutezo asks what they're going to do now, to which Pop says they can just pray that Sibo's experiment works now, which if successful will mean that they won't ever have to live in fear of the safeguard anymore, to which he answers that he can't wrap the idea of humans connecting to machines around his head, but Pops answers that they say the builders and safeguards will do as the humans say, which is a good thing. Sutezo wonders why people wanted to do that in the first place and doesn't want to live long enough to find that out. As he's walking back, he sees Zuru following Sibo and Kelly as Sibo says she won't be able to move while she's connected and tells Kelly to protect her while that's happening. Sutezo approaches Zuru and asks if she talked with him, which she denies and rushes out before finding out that Tat isn't in her room as she walks up to the edge and destroys the electrical barrier generator and transforms into another woman, declaring that she's Senna, representative construct of the safeguard who will eliminate all illegal residents lacking the net terminal gene, before shooting Ta's sister and another man in the crowd and starting to shoot the residents one after another, saying that total extermination has been initiated. Stubo analyses her and says that's a high-level safeguard posing as a human to get through the barrier, so it looks like they should hurry, but Kelly aims at Sana with his gun and rushes towards her while Zuru desperately tries to pull away at desperate-looking Fusetta away from Sana, who starts summoning exterminators and says that in accordance with Elimination Ordinance 5, she's beginning auxiliary examination before blowing up the houses. Meanwhile, Sutezo's carrying Pops, who stops him and tells him to gather everyone together and go up the tower, which he agrees to and starts rounding up everyone as Zuru tries to get Fusetta to put on his gear and Sutezo throws her a helmetal. Meanwhile, Kelly uses his X-rayed vision and fires his beam emitter to shoot through the wall and make the watchtower collapse, crushing the exterminators beneath it. Meanwhile, Sibo attaches the synthetic terminal and connects herself to it before going limp as Fusetta asks Zuru about what happened to Tai, and Pops tells him that she was replaced by the safeguard, so there's no way she's alive anymore, before Zuru hurriedly shoves the helmetal into Futasa's hands and walks out. Sutezo blasts Sana with his gun and decides to fire her from up close before Kelly grabs her and slams her into the ground before continuously punching her in the face and getting ready to fire, but she incinerates his arm. As the ground collapses and they fall down, both get up, but Sana incapacitates him and aims a beam emitter at his face, declaring that in accordance with Elimination Ordinance 3, Clause 2, elimination level has risen by 3 and requests authorization to use the gravitational beam emitter before stopping and saying that he is a body that was stolen from them. A safeguard, she asks if he intends to return and commands him to answer immediately, but when he stays silent, she says she will destroy him here in accordance with the ordinance, before suddenly realizing that an unauthorized connection to the net sphere has been detected and saying that the elimination level has risen by 2, aiming her gun at Sibo. Sutezo suddenly shoots her from the side and says he won't let her, before Zuru throws the beam emitter towards Kelly, which he catches and instantly fires at Sana, who manages to block it and starts firing towards Sibo. But Kelly injects himself again and fires a decisive shot, evaporating the entire wall behind her as the electro fissures get ready to lure the exterminators in and take down the last one. Meanwhile, Sibo reaches the authority and realizes that this must be the net sphere, one of the reserve electronic worlds that connects the net sphere to base reality. She asks it to let her connect, but it denies this and says the net sphere she used has just now lost its effectiveness, so the connection to her brain and base reality will also be cut in a few nanoseconds, but she still has time because here in the reserve world, time has been sped up, so from her relative point of view, time seems extended, so she asks it to at least stop the safeguard's attack on the village, but it says that without an order from someone with a net terminal gate, the authority cannot take any such action. Stibo agrees to this, but says she can tell it the coordinates of abandoned levels that the safeguard are not currently monitoring as much as is allowed within this reserve electronic world hearing, which it suddenly shows her something. Stibo asks what it is, so it explains that it stores a map of the levels near here. They cannot take this information into base reality, but also don't have any orders preventing her from connecting to it, so Sibo floats forward and touches it as the electro fissures are catering to the injured, with Sutezo leading them. Fusetta asks Kelly if he should bandage his arm as Pops thanks him for saving them and asks Zuru about what happened to Sibo. She answers that she isn't sure, to which he remarks that it's all over, but a hand being controlled by her walks towards them. and says it's too early to lose hope, explaining that her brain is in her arm and that this place has been found out by the safeguard, so the exterminators will come back sooner or later. They ask what they should do in that case, and she tells them of an abandoned level between this one and the one below it and a descending track leading to it north of here, explaining that it's a place that has been disconnected to the net sphere, so the safeguards and builders won't interfere. The others wonder if they should believe here, remarking that they'll just get killed by the exterminators if they choose to stay before Pops decides for a moment and orders them to get ready to leave. On their way, Zuru apologizes since it's her fault for taking everyone hunting, but Pop says they should be thanking her, and they silently proceed before Sibo calls the railway car and tells everyone again, which they obey, wondering if they can really get to the abandoned level before Zuru suddenly recognizes the smell and tells Kelly to hurry up and get in, but he stays outside and throws her his collar as the wind starts to blow. She tearfully asks if she'll see him again, in response to which he answers that he's looking for the net terminal gene, and Sibo closes the door as the car starts descending and the level above explodes. That was the last the villagers ever saw of him. Her grandmother Zuru always told her about Kelly, and even though there's no sign of someone with the net terminal genesis being found, she believes that he's still somewhere out there continuing his search.